So hookup culture, where do you think, I want to get to this because I don't, what do you think we disagree on some components?
I don't, maybe just like the details. I don't know. Okay. I don't think that we necessarily
So my
disagree.
take on it is this, because that, whoever that was in the chat was wrong. I actually just feel like it's bad for, I argue a lot that it's bad for women. I'm trying to tell women don't do this because it leaves you down a dark path. A lot of women are traumatized as a result of hookup culture in a way. I think that men aren't necessarily traumatized emotionally from it. For women, I think it's just a dark hole of wasting time, delaying those years where you could settle down with someone that really matters. You wind up with a ton of emotional baggage and a lot of trauma that you don't need. And because you are happier when you're pairing sex with emotion, you're depressed 9 out of 10 times when you're living in that environment. You know, you're sleeping with people, they don't call you the next day, you're depressed. That leads to drinking, antidepressants. I mean, it's just a dark downward spiral for women. When I talk about it with relation to men, it's a little bit different. I don't talk about it from the perspective of emotional trauma. I don't know that men experience emotional trauma from sleeping with people that they don't love. But I do talk about it as it being a sinkhole where then it becomes like, oh, you know, people, they get, you know, upset because it becomes like a tally. Like, how many girls can I get with this week? Oh, I didn't hit the mark. That's a problem. They start like falling into the drinking, falling into the club culture, losing focus, losing ambition, and focus on what they should really be doing, which is like becoming that financially secure, financially stable, healthy, you know, in the gym, fit guy who looks to a woman like a reliable source to lean on. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's just a sinkhole in different ways for both. Mm-hmm. I don't want guys, like I'd rather, I don't know if you follow the Belmars, I guess, right? And like how, do you follow them a little bit? And how they, no? Okay. Well,
Belmars?
We won't use them as an example, but.
Is that a TV show?
No. But I'm trying to just pull people from potentially the space who are like not necessarily involved in the, like what Michael Sartain said yesterday on your podcast with Waller, where he was like, we got enough. What did he say? We got enough.
Are you stalking Jason or Justin Waller?
No, I watched it was actually, if you want to know.
Research, okay.
If you want to know, it was research for today.
Watching, right,
it was Jeremy, not me. And it was research for today. I wanted to see what you guys were talking about last night. Mm-hmm. But no. But it was,
what is
you guys were talking about there's enough like Playboys in that space. Mm-hmm. And I just tell guys like, don't do it. Don't get immersed in hooking up with people that don't matter. It's just going to take you off your mission.
So first of all, I think the term hookup culture is it's nonsense. And I've been saying this really since about 2012, but I think it's more pronounced right now, 10 years later. The reason I say that whenever you put the word culture after any other word, you make it endemic. So if we say it's rape culture, it's marriage culture, it's bro culture, it's this culture, that immediately is like sort of like sends up a red flag for me. It's like, why are we calling it culture? Do you think that everyone is doing this right now? Because when you say that, whenever I hear hookup culture, it's 9 times out of 10, it's coming out of the mouth of a woman who can't find the guy. Well, you know, hookup culture did this and did that. I was just doing a breakdown video of Mia Khalifa, like a porn star, Mia Khalifa, who now suddenly
I don't even know who that is.
I didn't until thanks guys for the reference, by the way. Yes. But there's like a slew of porn stars right now who are getting out of the industry, like Mia Khalifa, Lana Rhoades, Riley Reid, and then what was the other one? Andrea Chechik, I think. Something. They're all getting, and of course they're past their prime, right? They're in the 29 to 33 demographic, and they're just, you know. But it's all about like the evil of the porn industry that pretty much sustained them, and they still keep their porn names after 18 to 28, and they're cycled out, and now the new crop comes in. And so when I'm looking at women saying, oh, it's hookup culture, it's something that's outside of themselves that put them into the condition that they're in at that particular time. So when I look at hookup culture, I have to put it into perspective of evolutionary psychology and a red pill perspective as well. 80% of guys are sexless. They're unattractive, let's just say. And I say they will be that way for life. They're not perma-virgins. I'm just saying that 80% of guys are deemed as unattractive. Dr. David Buss talks about this, Steve Stewart Williams, Rob Henderson. There's all kinds of data, and not just the dataclysm stuff and not just the online stuff, but there's multiple sources for this. Women rate 80% of men as unattractive. That does not mean that 20% of men are attractive. It just means that they'll do, okay? Of that 20%, only 4.5% of men, the Justin Wallers of the world, are attractive enough for women to want to initiate any kind of contact with those guys. So that's how we do dating today, is on Tinder, on Hinge, on Bumble. If you don't believe me, I can show you the stats where we look at like how people meet their spouse or whatever. It used to be church, it used to be school, it used to be work, it used to be friends, it used to be all these things are in a constant decline. The number one way, if you look at the stats that spikes, is on meeting your spouse or meeting a girl online. Now, problem with that is it's gone from being this. It's gone from being like, okay, Cupid, where we're going to write this really involved like profile about ourselves and like, oh, I really like long walks on the beach and coffee and I like dogs and rainbows and shit like that, to I'm just going to swipe left or swipe right. It's all perceptual at this point, right? So is he hot enough for me to want to get to know? Swipe this way. Okay. So you've got 4.5% of guys, and then you've got the entirety of women who can still at least be attractive enough to compete at that level, to be in the running, to be in the sexual marketplace, getting after it with the 4.5%. If there is a hookup culture, it exists between a very small percentage of men and a wide percentage of women, whereas the rest of the guys are the have-nots, the 80%ers that are the have-nots. That's why I say that there is no hookup culture, because it seems like the way that it's represented and the way that it's pitched is that all guys can get all girls. They're just so cruel, and they just care, all they care about is quick, fast sex and everything, whereas the 80% of guys are so in such a state of sexual scarcity that they would bend over backwards to be in a monogamous, like we were saying before, the 19 to 24-year-old girls who want to be at home and want to be a mom and everything else, those guys would bend over backwards to get into something like that, but they're unattractive and they're not going to get the call.
It seems to me that there is a hookup culture when it comes to women, though. There are, I mean, we show
and
videos.
And the 4.5% of guys.
We show like videos constantly of, and the reason I showcase them is because I want people to understand what a modern woman is saying. Like, let it come out of her own mouth, and they'll say, oh, my body count is, I don't know, 15, 16, I don't know, I lost track, you know, in and out of, jumping in and out of bed with different guys, wearing it as a badge of honor. And it just seems to me increasingly normalized. So that tells me that there is a hookup culture when it comes to women, which is a problem. Most of those women, I would be completely okay saying, are going to wind up looking back on those years and regretting them. They're going to feel like they didn't get anything out of it except pain, trauma, wreckage. They wasted time, all of that stuff. Even if you're talking about a small percentage of men, and I agree with you, because there's a lot of men that are sexless, they're depressed as a result, they're looking for a partner, they're not getting it, they're not engaged in that hookup culture 100%. Even for that small percentage of men who say they're really good looking, maybe they're in really good shape, whatever it is, high value, whatever it is, I would still say that it's a waste of your time to engage in that, because ultimately you could be better directing.
You're sharing the apex alpha.
Yeah, and you could be better directing your attention to real goals, or if you really care about a high value woman and your goal is really to land with a wife who, you know, has that purity that you claim you like and has all these attributes that you claim you like, why are you messing around with these girls that you know you're not going to take seriously at the end of the day? It's just it's a time thing for everybody.
They're all looking for the unicorn. They're all looking for the girl in the sun hat.
Or is it just like an instant gratification culture now, though? That's
what the point I was going to talk about is like, when we have gotten to the point right now with Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, with apps. It's no longer like online sites; it's apps now, and it's all perception based, and it's all for the most part, women are doing the selecting who are on those apps now. Women and this is just me spitballing here, but I would argue that women today would much rather have a somewhat good looking guy come up and approach them live in real time rather than like, left, swipe right. But we are in such a perceptual way. We've conditioned ourselves to be so sensitive to perceptions. Like I said, they have the face apps and Lensa and stuff like that kind of stuff, where we have a digital consciousness right now. And we have our regular, like right now, I'm talking to you in the real time. This is our consciousness. Then I have like sort of my inner dialogue, which is this consciousness. We now have developed a digital consciousness on top of that becomes that personality. But when we're looking at, say, like Tinder and Hinge and Bumble, I don't think that enough people realize that you are wrapped up in what's called churn marketing. It is not in Tinder's best interest for you to find a long-term, satisfying, wonderful relationship to last the ages, right? It is not in those the online dating communities, whatever, interests for you to be happy in the long term, because they lose a customer. If they were that good at like pairing people up, here's your soulmate, like eHarmony, right? If they were so damn good at that, it would would kill the business because now that you've met, you're out of the system. So what happens is they want you to have shitty, short term, quick hit, ejaculate and evacuate relationships, short term relationships. That's what they want. Sorry, John from Our Life Dating. I stole that from you. But they
that's 2 lines you stole.
But I have attributed both of them. So when you're looking at churn market, we don't know, like I was making this point on yesterday's show, we don't know how to watch a movie anymore because we watch series. It's what Netflix series. And we get all pissed off and upset that like Ozark season 3 is over and I got to wait a year for the next season, right? Because you'll sit there and you'll commit 8 to 10 hours to a season of a particular show that you like, because at the end of each one is a cliffhanger and it brings you back. And it's like the Breaking Bad formula. It brings you, how are they going to get out of this one, right? It's the same thing with Tinder. It's the same thing with our political process too. It's the same thing. Like, think of all the ways that we keep people involved in the churn going over and over and over again. And I think it's really dangerous, by the way, to be in a churn that is going to have long-term effects on your sex life, on long-term effects on your marriage, long-term effects on the children that might be produced as a result of that. And so I think it's you want to here's your advice for the ages here is understand when you're in a churn. The easiest way to, of course, is like look at Netflix and all that kind of stuff. But we have fundamentally changed the way that we think about each other, and we fundamentally changed the way that we've been like sort of allowed things to influence us or what we're entertained by, because we want to stay in that churn. We like it. Human beings love the churn. It's like it's engineered gambling addiction is what it is.
That's
so it's
right.
like what did she say about that bitch? She said this about me on Twitter,
you love the
on
churn
Instagram.
Because all the chemicals get released that get
it's
you
a dopamine
excited.
hit.
If you want to watch the full episode, click right here. And if you want to ask me a question, talk one-on-one, send me a FaceTime video, join a video with a group of your friends and me, you got to download Connect and you got to join me there. It's going to be really hot.